Hello everybody, Ghost Critic here again. Anybody who watched my 100th video would know that I started a competition for a raffle to win lots of comics, all issue ones, and the two rules for it was that you had to be a subscriber and you had to put a question down in that comment box down there. And firstly, I'd just like to say thank you for the great response that I got on that video. I really wasn't sure how well it would go, if I would get, 5 or 6 questions. Maybe I thought I might get, 10 at the most. But you've done me proud, folks. You've done me proud. And this is the video where I answer all your questions. And there are a lot of them. So I'm going to go kick off straight away. I've got my paper here because there's no way I was going to remember them all. There were some really good questions and some of them looked deceptively easy but had me thinking for a long time. So I'm going to start from the top list. I just printed out the questions at work and the most recent ones come first, so if you're one of the first ones, you had a bit of a while to wait, but hey, be entertained with everyone else's questions. And don't forget, if you want to answer some of the questions yourself, there's a comment box down there. Let everyone know what you would have answered as well. So let's get going. Just narrowly scraping in, we have It's OVA for Real. He asked me, who do you think has the dumbest useless power? To be fair, I think it's a tie, for me anyway, and they are both X-Men, and the 90s, especially for the first guy, has got a lot to answer for. Maggot. My mutant power is I can pull maggots out of my stomach. Oversized maggots. How disgusting is that? And another X-Men that I really didn't get, Jubilee. Never been a big fan. What's my power set? I can make pretty fireworks. How awesome is that not? So yeah, that's my answer for that one. Then Jason P. Wilson 01 X-Force asked a few questions. What is your guilty pleaser comic? Don't know. I don't feel guilty about any of them. No, seriously. I'm not guilty about any of my comics. I like them all. He also asked, do you find yourself being judged by others who just don't understand why you love comics? To be fair, not a lot of people know that I collect comics, apart from anyone who watches these videos, obviously. So, kind of, in the real world, no one really knows. Of the people that I do know, like work colleagues, they would probably think I was mental. And obviously the word nerd, the word geek would be thrown around, I am sure. But I've not really had any, prejudice of any sort, no. Finally, he asked, do you watch any animated TV or films? I'm watching currently The Young Justice. That started back up a while ago, which is fun for 20 minutes. I watched the Spectacular Spider-Man, the last one, Spectacular Spider-Man, that one, which was a lot of fun. It's a shame that they cancelled that. Movies, I've seen the first Green Lantern, the All-Star Superman, a lot of the Marvel ones like Doctor Strange, what else? Yes, lots. I'll watch cartoons. I love cartoons. Who doesn't love cartoons? Yeah, that was his final question. Then PS3 Games and Comic Books asked me, do you read any 2000 AD comics? Not actually anymore. When I was a teenager, yes, that was always, down to my local newsagent's comic book shop. Yes, I'd be buying that. But keep watching because 2000 AD crops up again. Deacon Howler he asked me, did you ever play superhero games with your friends or anything of the like? I can't believe I'm actually gonna tell you this, but not superhero games as such. Living in the Lake District, lots of woodland, lots of fells, mountains and the like. We kind of played Dungeons and Dragons. We didn't dress up, there was no dressing up. I think the limit of our accessorising would be like a big branch to be used as a staff if you were like a mage or something like that, you know, a Gandalf type character. So that was the kind of limit of our playing superhero-y type games, I guess. Thank you, Deacon Howler. Warzone Spider, he asked, what is your favourite Marvel superhero and why? That was, again, this is one of the ones that on the surface looks really easy to answer, but actually was quite difficult. But I didn't want to go with the obvious and say like Spider-Man or Wolverine. I decided that my favourite superhero is actually Matt Murdock, Daredevil. Why? I think I prefer, yes, he's got the whole heightened superpower type thing, but he is still quite grounded. He's very much a kind of street level fighter, so there are limits to this guy. And, you know, let's ignore the fantastic Mark Waid run at the moment, but going back to like Bendis and Brubaker and all the guys that followed those, they really, you know, pushed Daredevil and Matt Murdock to the limit, and it was just great seeing this almost ordinary man cope with all this, and it was really intriguing for me. Loved it. So yes, Daredevil. I hope that is a good enough answer for you. Annie Mangamant asked, who do you think uses their powers the most uniquely? Who do you think has the most interesting power set? Wow, this was a really difficult question. And looking through all my comments, I just thought, is there really a kind of unique power set anymore? A lot of, you know, the superheroes now, they're all kind of cliched. Yes, slightly variant of, you know, the big ones like flying and telepathy and fire and, you know, the elements type thing. And then I thought of this next character. I think he's quite unique. I don't know of many other people with his power set. And that was Forge. Strange choice, but he's a guy who can pretty much invent anything from anything. So I think he'd be a pretty handy guy to have at least around the house. So yeah, I'm going to go with Forge. What were you thinking? On to the next one. Who have we got? Comic Richard. My God. Of all the questions I could have been asked, and you asked me this. If you could kill and not be arrested, suffer consequences, would you, could you? No! I know what he's getting at. We had a conversation about the X-Men not so long ago, and in particular Wolverine. I think it was an X-Force storyline, kind of one story deal really early on with Wolverine that sparked all this, but personally me, no. Kurame, he asked me, which British comic talent that hasn't hit the States yet should we Yanks look out for? Honestly, I don't know of any. I think I'll probably elaborate more on why in a couple of questions that come later. But I think you've got all our British comic book talent at the moment, to be fair. You know, you've got Ellis, Ennis, Morrison, you've got Gaiman. You've got them all. I don't really think, or that I know of anyway, I'm sure a lot of people from the UK are going to be tapping away now telling me, you've forgotten this, but I don't know of any. So, sorry about that. Super Grey Hulk, he asked me, in your opinion, who is the most influential cartoonist of this past decade? As far as this cartoonist is concerned, he or she need not necessarily have to possess drawing skills, they can strictly just do writing. Cartoonist, do you mean like cartoons? This was difficult for me, so I wasn't sure whether you meant as cartoons or comic books. And I don't know. I mean, guys like, you know, like Bendis, that sounds really lame though. But he is quite, I don't know if he's particularly influential, but he's certainly prolific. Artisty wise, I mean, you've got the likes of Jim Lee, again, more prolific than influential. That was a really difficult question to ask. I'm really sorry, I've not really done that one justice. Sorry. Hazel Coffee Nut asked me, which publisher do you find yourself reading the most of and why? I think right now, I think it's a pretty obvious, it's DC with their obvious new 52 reboot. Whether you're a new or an old reader, whether you're on board with the reboot or whether you think it's an absolutely horrific idea, I think a lot of people are reading DC at the moment, and they will certainly see a surge in sales for at least a couple of months, maybe 2 or 3 till the end of the year, when I think it will then level off and Marvel will, I was going to say take their rightful place at the top, but I'm by no means a Marvelite in that I dismiss DC. I see pros and cons for both publishing companies. I don't really read a lot of Dark Horse. The last was the Buffy the Vampire series, season 8, that I read. Vertigo, I read quite a few of those. Mostly read Vertigo in trade. Find them a lot easier to and enjoy to read in trade. So yeah, that's my answer. Oh, I never finished this one off, but okay. Hadouken14 asked me, if you were in charge of creating a superhero version of Big Brother that was going to be on TV, which 8 to 10 characters in the whole of comics would you put in and why? Well, I did start my list, and I'm sorry, I forgot to finish this off, so I'm going to have to pick something up from the top of my head here. I have watched Big Brother in the past. I read a lot of papers and magazines, so I know the main interest of watching Big Brother for people is because they want people to either argue with each other or some romantic endeavour to happen. So with that in mind, I started off, let's see, so far I have Gambit, Iron Man, Tony Stark, and Jack from Jack of Fables. I'm going to throw Bruce Wayne in there and quickly look around at my comics that I can maybe... Yeah, let's throw John Constantine in there as well. 5 very big characters, very big egos, and you know, all of them I think pretty much like the ladies. So let's throw some sexy ladies in there for them. Emma Frost. I know she's not particularly a superhero as such, but let's throw Mary Jane in there as well. The little dark horse of the team. Let's put Jean Grey in there, because Jean Grey and Emma Frost will, you know, there'll be a bit of antagonism between the two of them. Who else? Ladies, let's chuck Wonder Woman in there. And Selena Kyle, Catwoman, there you go. 5 sexy ladies for the 5 handsome, sexy men. And they can all fight over each other, who wants who, and there you go. I hope that's a good enough answer. What a strange question. Lifeman55 asked me, why do you reckon the British guys are so talented and rule the comic scene? Do they? Do they? Yeah, I mean, he mentioned all the big kind of British guys' names like Warren Ellis and Garth Ennis, Grant Morrison, Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore. I don't honestly know. Maybe, I don't know, they've got... We talk about like the Brits having such a reserved kind of way of life and we're all a bit prudish, etc. But I mean those names alone, you just read some of their comments and you know that isn't the way. Their imaginations are just huge and immense. They go places that I don't think American writers or artists are not necessarily can't do, but are not allowed to do or don't feel they can because they work for the big companies and it's expected them to kind of toe the line. At least it was. So I don't think they're necessarily the most talented, and I don't think they certainly rule the comic scene, but yeah. How I Met Your Music asked me, have you read Kick-Ass? I have to say I haven't read Kick-Ass. I have seen the film and I thought it really kind of sucked. I much preferred what came out at the same, Scott Pilgrim. That came out roughly the same time. Loved that film. Kick-Ass. It's just, it's Mark Miller, isn't it? It is Mark Miller. Mark Miller's kind of in a bit of a rut at the moment. He seems to think violence equals good comic book reading. Just my point of view, guys. Next, Howler Mouse. He asked me, would you show some comics exclusive to England? Okay, not something I normally do. Obviously, you see my videos week in, week out. So I went down to my newsagents because the comic book stores, they're just going to sell the American stuff. And I picked up a pile. See, that is really not a big kind of mainstream comic book scene within the UK. And so you have to... Let's just show you. They kind of go from one extreme to the other. You either get the comics that are for kids, which is like that, the Batman, the Brave and the Bold, which is primarily at kids, so they get all the free gifts. Here we've got Batman and the Brave magnets with little pictures of the of all the characters on there, and you know, you get kind of puzzles in there and a comic strip in there, and I think in the middle there's a big poster, if I remember rightly. Where is it? Middle page. How difficult is it to find the middle page of a magazine? There you go. So there's a big Batman picture. So you kind of go from that extreme to... This is Clint. This is a magazine. It's got articles in it as well, reviews of mostly, funny enough, American comics, but it reprints on obviously oversized paper American comics, funny enough. So you've got Kick-Ass 2 in there, you've got Superior, you've got Officer Downey, and I think the last one was Who is Jake Ellis. So although, you know, this is kind of exclusive to the UK, I'm sure you can pick it up in the US, all it does is reprint on oversized paper American comics. Again, with the reprints, there's a company called Panini UK. They do these kind of Marvel DC collections. This is Marvel Legends, and again it just reprints Marvel titles, usually not that old. I mean, this current one that I picked up, it's got Captain America Reborn issue 3, Thor 609, Invincible Iron Man 15 in there. So you get 3 comics in there, so they're only about, what, 3 or 4 months old. Probably good for someone in the UK who doesn't want to go into a comic shop because they're not sure what they want to pick up yet. So you can, you know, have a little taste of what you're missing and then catch up with what the most recent stuff is. I suppose what everyone remembers, and why I said hold on for 2000 AD. Yeah, there we go. 2000 AD comic. This has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 stories, and they're usually about 5 or 6 pages long. I don't know if you can see the Judge Dredd comic in there, the big one in there. Another comic that I really wasn't going to fork out a £5 for, but there's this, it's the Judge Dredd magazine. It has like 128 pages of stunning strips and features, and I think it's slightly more adult. There's another story, new story, kind of artwork on there by, I think it was Simon Davis. Yeah, Simon Davis, I know him. Again, another story there. Another story there. Then you kind of get these little pocket books. I think, can you see that? Commando. These are reprints from old comics. This story in here was first published in 1972, but they're like black and white reprints of old kind of war comics, so that's Commando. That's not necessarily a comic book, but we don't know if any of you know, but I live in a town called Northampton. Now Northampton is not very famous for a lot of things. We have a famous shoe factory here apparently, but one of the big names is Mr. Alan Moore, and Alan Moore brings out this, I suppose you could call it an oversized fanzine really, called Dodgem Logic. It's full of articles by local writers, and you get kind of very strange kind of artworks, kind of cartoony style. It is very well, they think they're being very radical and against the system. It's very anti-society, a little pretentious to be honest, but I just thought I'd show you that. I do see the guy walking around the town centre quite often, and he is a very intimidating guy. I've never and would never walk up to him and say hello. I know some of you are going, ah! You'd probably be running up to him, but the guy, he is a true British eccentric, and he scares me a little. Right, I'm going to stop the video now and do a part 2. Don't worry if I haven't answered your questions yet. I'll see you in a minute.